What a fantastic Cubs convention wrapped up on Sunday, honored the 84 Cubs. How about Shota Imanaga with his introductory press conference aired on Friday in front of all the fans. Great job, Cubs marketing department. Great job, baseball ops, making that deal happen. Really fantastic time in Chicago. I want to talk about one of the players, though, who has emerged really as a player GM. You know, we've had player managers before, right? That was a regularity back in the old days in baseball. But what about player GM? Well, maybe not necessarily a real GM, but there's one player on the Cubs that has a big influence on the team. And I want to talk about Dansby Swanson and what impact he has. But first, thanks for being here, guys. Make sure you like and follow. Give us a thumbs up. That's a great way of saying go Cubs. And subscribe. Appreciate all of you guys for being here as we talk Cubs baseball every single day. Let's get this thing going. Let's start the week the right way. Go Cubs. What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs Baseball Channel. I'm Mick Gillispie, at Broadcaster Mick on the socials. All right, let's talk about it. Let me pull it up here. Let's listen to the clip, and then we're going to talk about Dansby Swanson and his impact on the Cubs front office, because they take the things that he says very seriously. And I think that's cool. I mean, I think that's what makes the impact that he has with the Cubs so important.
Before we get to next year, we got to re-sign Belli. So that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, Chip.
And there it is. That was the very last thing that was said. And it was the Cubs hitters. Our friend Ron Coomer was on there. Hopefully we'll talk to him here again on the channel shortly. You have Dansby Swanson, Nick Madrigal, you got Nico Horner and Mike Tauchman all up there. They did a fantastic job on this panel. But the last thing that he said was, we got to get Cody Bellinger signed. And he knew when he said that it was going to make an impact. Why? Well, first off, Dansby Swanson was signed away from the Atlanta Braves. He won a World Series in Atlanta. He's from Vanderbilt. Carter Hawkins. Yeah, Carter Hawkins, the general manager of the team, also a Vanderbilt alum. Yeah, Ryan Flaherty, the new bench coach, also a Vanderbilt guy. But Carter Hawkins and Dansby Swanson probably see things very similarly because they went to the same school. And you can't, listen, you're going to Vanderbilt, you're pretty smart. The first time that I noticed, though, that Swanson was going to have an impact on the roster, which you just don't see a lot of players having an impact on the roster. But he talked with Ken Rosenthal right around, I guess in July at some point, right? And he was basically talking about, actually it was in early August, he was talking about meeting with Jed Hoyer and basically saying, don't trade away our players. Give us a chance. If we want to be good, the expectation needs to be that we're going to win. Just because it's not going purely as planned this year, you get to a deadline and you can't just say, we're done with this year. And the team really seemed to respond to that. I think just putting the extra emphasis on Hoyer, who said after not trading players away, and you remember what it was like at the deadline, the Cubs seemed to be dead in the water. And they were a game or two in the loss column away from making deals to get rid of players. And then they went on an 11-2 run, and they decided not to. And instead they traded for Jamer Candelario and Jose Cuevas. Jose Cuas. And, and remember, they got really hot. They had the big wild card lead. And then, of course, we know how the season ended. But my point isn't that. My point is that Dansby Swanson, who's in the second year of a 6-year contract, has really taken it upon himself to, I don't want to say stick his neck out, but represent the team and say, here's what we want. Now, the other part of this, and I was thinking about it when I saw it, and I watched it a few times, and it wasn't like he was asked a question. I mean, it was something that he wanted to say, and he said it, is how does this affect the negotiations? Well, I think that when your agent is Scott Boras, obviously he's going to say, hey, look, the guys on the team want Bellinger back. Well, in that same panel, when Bellinger's name was mentioned, the place went nuts. We love Cody Bellinger. I mean, he's won us over. I haven't seen a Cub win, a guy that came from another team, join the Cubs, and win the fan base over like this, honestly, since Andre Dawson. I mean, really, and we've had guys do that. Don't get me wrong, but not like this. He's become the face of the team, not Swanson, but Bellinger. And when he said, hey, let's sign him, Dansby did, I'm wondering, okay, how does this affect the market? How does this help or hurt Jed Hoyer, Carter Hawkins, as they're dealing with Scott Boras? Well, first off, this offseason for Jed Hoyer has been pretty good. And it's been one where you're constantly waiting for something, and then when you least expect it, pow. I mean, let's look at the way that Craig Counsell was hired. I mean, that was like a sneak attack. And it sent the world of baseball toppling over. I mean, no one could believe it. Everyone thought he was going to be with the Mets or the Cleveland or wherever. And I thought that move really set the tone for the offseason. And then they were very quiet and they didn't spend any money. And we're all worried. Okay, what's going to happen? And then Shota Imanaga reports were telling us, and the ones that I thought had the most credibility were The Athletic, saying that they thought that it was a long shot, and maybe it's the same reason that I thought it was a long shot with Imanaga, and that's because the Japanese baseball media said the Cubs and the Red Sox were out, and it was down to the Giants and the Angels. And look, maybe there's a little bit of luck in this because Imanaga wanted to be a Cub. Major League Baseball players with Scott Boras as their agent would never take the deal that Imanaga took. And as Cubs fans, we definitely need to appreciate the fact that he did that. He could have gotten all $80 million of that contract guaranteed. Instead, it's 53 and then option. And I thought that was really something. And then when he got up on stage at the Cubs convention, was when he was going through his press conference, he knocked it out of the park. And I realized that Jed had done a great job. He got the guy he wanted, and he didn't overspend. He didn't get beat by the market. And there's a little bit of pressure on the player to live up to the contract, which I think's good. Then the trade with the Dodgers, I know some of you are going, well, Jackson Ferris could be a great pitcher in the future. He might be. But you also got Michael Busch, who I think the Cubs are going to look at it first. He obviously can play third, gives you some flexibility. And he's put up huge numbers in AAA. And some of you are going, well, now you got Matt Mervis and Michael Busch. And what you hope is that one of those guys takes the first base job, figures it out. Again, competition is good. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. They got a manager who has a track record of helping guys figure out how to be successful. And then I read the comments every day, and you guys do an awesome job commenting. But how many of you guys have said, and a lot of you have, well, think about Anthony Rizzo. Same type situation. The Padres traded him. Cubs don't win the World Series without Riz. I thought he was one of the best defenders I've ever seen at first base. The clutch hitting that he had when he was in Chicago. And that was a great deal for the Cubs. But it was the same situation. And looking back on that trade, that was one of the best deals that Theo and the gang made. So you're hoping that maybe this is the same thing. The Dodgers situation's different. They just have a bunch of high-paid guys at the big leagues, and they're not going to – this guy's never really going to get a shot. So that's why they traded him. But you're talking about a top 50 prospect and the Dodgers' second best prospect. So I thought that was a good move as well. So now getting back to Cody Bellinger. When your players are on stage and they're telling your fans, go re-sign Cody Bellinger. Well, obviously, the front office knows that you guys want him. And who knows if they've had conversations, because they're not going to tell us until maybe after it's done. But what I wonder is Swanson telling Scott Boras, hey, go sign with the Cubs. Is he telling Cody Bellinger, well, I'm sure he is, to sign with the Cubs? And what I hope is that if you're going to put that kind of pressure on the front office, that you put that same pressure on the player and his management team to get this done. Because we all agree with you on this. I think we all want this done. The sooner it's done, the better it is. And I'm enjoying Dansby Swanson. And it is refreshing. You know, how many teams don't have a leader? But when you start to interject your opinions on free agency, it's got to be a two-way street, because you just don't want to put the pressure on the front office to take a bad deal. Not that Jed Hoyer would do that. I mean, his track record this year is that he's going to be patient. But the sooner, the better. Anyway, I like that. I liked what Dansby did. I liked Ron Coomer hosting that seminar. I'm going to be back there next year. Wish I was there myself. And for you guys that were there, I'm guaranteeing it was a great time, as long as you didn't go outside and freeze. All right, guys. Hey, let me tell you this. We will be here. If anything breaks, we'll jump on live or, immediately have some kind of content. I also want to remind you that we're presented by the Tennessee Smokies and their team store. They're our sponsor, and they want you to check out some of the autographed memorabilia they have. Guys like Pete Crow Armstrong and Owen Casey. They've got game-worn jerseys. They've got game-used bats and balls. They also have Cubs gear. They've got Smokies gear, all of that stuff at the Smokies team store, smokiesbaseball.com/store. Thanks for hanging out, everybody, and go Cubs.